right, everybody. Good afternoon. The regular Community Safety Commission meeting of October 14, 2025 will now come to order. Thank you so much for being here for the Community Safety Commission's first meeting. My name is Misty Wright. I'm the Mayor's Executive Director of Community Safety, so I work on the Mayor's crime reduction and prevention portfolio, and I'm here with Shan Kemper. She is our new Deputy Mayor and Deputy General Counsel. And she and I are going to serve as your co-facilitators for these commission meetings going forward. It'll be our job to keep us on task, move us forward, recognize speakers when there are questions you want to ask or comments you want to make, and we will do our best to fulfill that role going forward. Please note this meeting is being recorded. Also, some of the members of our independent monitor team are seated at this table to my right. A couple of them could not be here physically today, so they're joining us virtually. All right, at this time, let's conduct our roll call. Genevieve?
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Can you hear me? No. Good afternoon. Okay. I'll just try my mom voice. There it is. Rose Smith. Mr. Jaguna. Present. Gary Friedman. Here. Ms. Law. Reverend Johnson. Here. David Lopez. Here. Jess Brown. Freddie Brown. David Griss. Ms. Jones.
He's right over here.
Ms. Mobus. Katura, Haran, Jack Will.
Here.
Scott Huber.
Here.
Angie Barona. Renee Brown.
Here.
Joni. Mr. Anderson.
Here.
Ms. Weathers.
Here.
Mike O'Connell.
Here.
Amy Hanna.
Here.
Randy White.
Here.
McKay. Councilman Shanklin. Ma'am, you have a quorum.
Thank you, Genevieve. All right, I want to start by giving you a bit of an overview of what the agenda for today is. First, you'll hear from Mayor Greenberg, who will offer some opening remarks for this commission. After that, we'll spend about 20 minutes on new member orientation and introductions of all of our commission members. Then I'll give you a very brief overview of Safe Louisville, the mayor's crime reduction plan. That'll take about 15-20 minutes. And during that time, we'll get ideas from you on what you want to focus on moving forward at the next commission meeting. Then we'll have a break, and this will be our time to transition from Safe Louisville over to the community commitment Louisville's consent decree. So when we come back from our break, you'll get an introduction to the community commitment from Deputy Mayor Kemper. Then you will hear from our independent monitor, ALIFA, that stands for Effective Law Enforcement for All, and 3 of those folks are seated to my right. After you hear from the independent monitor, you will hear from Deputy Chief Emily McKinley with LMPD. She'll give you some more information about the community commitment. And then finally, we'll do planning and other business. We'll decide on our schedule for meetings and set expectations moving forward. But without further ado, I want to introduce Mayor Greenberg to give us some opening remarks. Mayor?
Good afternoon, everyone. I really just wanted to kick off by saying thanks to each and every one of you. We are all here today, myself included, because we want to be here today. We are here today really with this Community Safety Commission has a 2-pronged mission. One is to focus on violent crime reduction throughout our community and getting feedback from all of you who represent a cross-section of our entire community on how we can continue to make our community safer every day. And the second is to make sure that we're getting input, feedback, questions, being held accountable on our community commitment, which is our version of the consent decree. We didn't have to do that. We want to do that because we all believe it's the right thing to do and will move our community forward in the direction that we are all looking for that to do. There's a lot of work ahead. We've made great progress over the past few years, but I know there is still a ton of work to do. And so we just appreciate all of your time that you're dedicating to this, and we value your questions, we value your feedback, and as time goes on, we value you asking those tough questions to hold all of us, LMPD, my administration, all of us accountable to what we say we're going to do and to how the plan is being implemented and whether we're getting results. This meeting might be a little bit more information being presented than other meetings, but that's the nature of a kickoff meeting all the time. We want to make sure that you all have the base level of information on this two-pronged approach that we don't believe anyone has done before in the country. So we are trying something new here. So we appreciate your participation in that. But again, really just want to thank you, and please make it interactive. Do not be shy. Ignore the cameras. And make this interactive, this meeting and future meetings in particular, once the real conversations and feedback begin. So again, thank you all very much.
Thank you, Mayor. All right, and now we'll move on to new member orientation. A couple of housekeeping items. There is a restroom, if anyone needs it, right outside this door to the left behind the stairs that is open. There's also water and coffee at the back of the room if anybody needs that, particularly during our break. Please feel free. Let's start by talking about the mandate of the Community Safety Commission. As the mayor said, this commission has two purposes. One, working on violent crime reduction, and two, working on police reform. And I want to note that these things are inherently related. The mayor came out with his crime plan back in April. And one of the key strategies that you'll hear me talk about today, as it relates to crime prevention, is police reform. Mayor recognizes that it is imperative that we build trust between our community and our police in order for police to be able to serve community better, but also in order for them to learn about and solve crimes. So that is a key part of crime prevention and also part of enforcement. So what will you guys be doing? We've gotten you all in this room, and it's wonderful to have all of you. You all are leaders in your own right and bring different perspectives. We want to use that as much as possible. So you will serve as the primary transparency mechanism, and what I mean by that is you are the group that are going to receive regular report outs on what we're doing to reduce crime, how it's going, and also how police reform is going. You're the primary mechanism for that and for the public to learn what's going on. So it's incumbent on you to be engaged and ask questions, even tough ones, and engage in discussion with one another and with the people who are reporting out to you to keep that information flowing and to keep the conversation moving forward. Ultimately, you are here to ensure that the work of Louisville Metro government is reflective of the values and also of the needs of every member of our community, not just some of them. That's why we have such a breadth of perspective here. Today, as the mayor mentioned, today's an orientation, and that means that the majority of it is people talking at you, and I apologize in advance for that. We want to make sure you know what's going on and you have a firm basis to have these conversations. In the future, we expect the meetings to be the vast majority you speaking, you asking questions, you engaging in dialogue. There will be report outs from various entities at your direction as you decide the agenda moving forward. And also, if you choose to form subcommittees, we'll speak about that a little bit later, your subcommittees may have report outs and additional insights to offer. So that's where we're headed. Today is going to be a little bit information heavy, but in the future, we expect it to be primarily discussion. All right. In front of you, you'll notice you have a relatively thick binder. This is your welcome binder. This is yours to take home with you, and please bring it back. We'll add to it as we keep working on this commission. I want to walk you through the contents of the binders so you know what you're looking at. The first thing in it is a welcome letter from the mayor. One thing to note is you'll see key contact information for folks with the mayor's office who are facilitating these meetings. If you have questions, you know exactly how to get a hold of everyone. The second part is the agenda for today. The third part of the binder is a collection of member biographies for every single member of this commission. You all submitted biographies, and we also have photos, so you can read more about the people that you're serving with. I want to pause here and remind everyone that we have 3 categories of members in this commission. The first category are community representatives. There are 9 of you, and they are organized according to your geographical distribution in our city. So we have 1 person for every LMPD police division. That's 8 police divisions represented. And then we have a 9th person who is our home rule city seat that represents the areas that LMPD does not serve. Okay? That's the first category of representatives. The second category is community organization representatives. There are 8 of you. You represent leadership in organizations who have a stake in violence reduction and prevention and contribute to that effort in our city. And then the third category of representatives here represent some institutions, key institutions in our city. So justice system, Jefferson County Public Schools, and also Metro Council are represented here. Let's take a moment now to get to know one another. I'll pass around this microphone, and I'll start over here with Mr. Grease. We do have 24 people to get through, but we do want to hear from all of you. So if you could please give us an idea of who you are by giving us your name, what organization or area of the city you represent, and what you do for a living. We'll start with that. Sound good? All right.
Good morning, everyone. I'm David Grice. I represent LMPD Division 1, that is Portland, Russell, Downtown, and Butchertown. I am a former federal prosecutor. I was a federal prosecutor for 25 years. I spent several years overseas as a diplomat and taught criminal law at least, I think, at last count, 3 universities in the state of Kentucky, and I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
Maddie Jones, and I think I'm a senior member here. Been in this city 92 years, and I've always wanted to be safe, to be comfortable, to be a loving community, and to know how to treat all brothers and sisters right, regardless of their race, color, or creed. I've seen many things in this city that was bad. I've seen many things as I look back 92 years that has been so good and continuing to grow. And as long as it is God's will for me to be a part and participating in anything that will make this city, this state, Louisville, Kentucky, one of the best known in history and making history constantly each and every day. Thank you for being here with so many brothers and sisters this afternoon that has the same idea that I have. Keep on working until our day is done.
Hello, I'm Madison Lobus from LMPD District 3. I am a substitute teacher with JCPS, primarily at PRP. I guess that's all I have for it. I do doctoral research regarding crisis intervention team programs and other paradigms of crisis intervention. So, thank you.
Good afternoon. I am Katora Heron. I represent LMPD District 4. I am also a state senator, and I represent Senate District 35. And my background is juvenile justice and kids who are impacted by all of our systems, like the foster care system. Thank you.
I'm Jack Will. I represent LMPD District 5. I'm also Executive Director for the Jefferson County League of Cities, which is made up of the 80 home rule cities in Jefferson County. I've had a varied career from the education, government, and nonprofit sector. I served for 4 years with the U.S. Department of Education in the first George Bush administration, had a short tenure in the Kentucky legislature, and have been active in the neighborhood associations, particularly the Belknap area where I live in the Barstown Road area.
My name is Scott Huber. I represent LMPD District 6. I have a degree in criminal justice, and I currently work with people who are dealing with addiction. I work in the recovery industry, and I'm out to help people in any way I possibly can.
Hi, my name is Angie Barona. I am Division 7, but also represent all immigrants who live in the city. I'm a social worker. I work right now with undocumented minors around all Kentucky, Ohio, and Tennessee. And also, I am therapist for Gilda's Club of Kentucky.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Renee Brown. I'm a retired military officer, served in the military for about 26 years, then 2 tours of duty, combat tours in Iraq and also in Somalia. I served in the White House and in the Pentagon. I currently am a senior pastor, and I have a business, healthcare business. I've been in the healthcare industry for 17 years. I'm excited about this opportunity to work with you guys. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Joni Jenkins. I served 28 years in the Kentucky House, focusing mostly on violence against women and addiction services. I retired in 22 and about 5 days later went to work for Congressman McGarvey in his district office.
Good afternoon. My name is Matt Anderson. I represent JCPS. I am the Assistant Superintendent for Climate and Culture. Most of our focus is around removing barriers and providing resources to our students so that they can remain academically successful. We do that in a host of ways I'm sure we'll be hearing about throughout this. So thanks for having us.
Good afternoon. Freddie Brown with the YMCA of Greater Louisville. I am a group vice president. 2 of the branches that I support are in the West End, the Chestnut Street Y and the Republic Bank Foundation YMCA. And so I also oversee our teens and aquatic work with the Y.
Hi, my name is Jessica Brown. I'm with U of L Health, U of L Hospital downtown. We are the regional level 1 adult acute trauma center. And then my role there is the injury prevention manager, where we have programs designed to prevent and intervene with injury, traumatic injury, and then promote healing afterwards, including gun violence. So happy to be here.
Hi, I'm McKay Chavan. I don't think this works. Does this work? It's like a prop, but you feel... Hi, I'm McKay Chavan. I'm McKay Chavan. I'm retired from the circuit court. Oh, okay, not for amplification, recording only. All right. So do not put it in your ear, put it in front of your mouth. McKay Chavan. I'm retired from the Jefferson Circuit Court. I currently serve as the Jefferson County Court Administrator, and I'm here representing the judiciary.
I'm glad to know that it's working. Gary Friedman, CEO of Big Brothers Big Sisters of Kentuckiana. We serve all of Metro Louisville and beyond. I'm here because we really believe mentorship is a key part of prevention, and we're excited to share more about how that could help with our entire vision for the community.
I'm Amy Hanna. I'm the manager of the Louisville region for the Department of Public Advocacy. We represent the indigent accused here in Jefferson County.
I'm Reverend Dr. Angela Johnson. I am the pastor of Grace Hope Presbyterian Church in Smoketown. I am here representing CLOUT, which is Citizens of Louisville Organizing United Together, which are 26 faith congregations, including a synagogue that stretches from one end of Jefferson County to the other.
Hola, buenas tardes. Mi nombre es David Lopez. Hello, everybody. My name is David Lopez. I'm the immediate past chair of the Louisville Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, currently an advisory board member. Professionally, I have started, run, and grown organizations my entire career, both on the for-profit and nonprofit side. I now work alongside leaders all across the region, the state, the nation, and the world, doing similar things, starting, growing, and running their organizations. The Latin Hispanic community has grown by 247% between the year 2000 and the year 2020. We probably number close to 90,000 Latin Hispanic folks in the metro area. So certainly a community that deserves a seat at the table and that has unique cultural and language needs that I hope to really be able to do a little bit of justice in trying to bring those perspectives to the table alongside others in the room as well.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Kungo Jagoon. I'm a policy strategist with the ACLU of Kentucky. That's the American Civil Liberties Union of Kentucky. We're an affiliate of the national organization, which has been around for over 100 years, and I'd be remiss not to say that we are celebrating our 70th anniversary. And what the ACLU does mainly is fight for the constitutional rights of every single Kentuckian without exception. So we're here to make sure that, obviously, that the civil rights of every person in this community are not violated.
Sorry for not standing, but I had knee surgery. So, my name is Barbara Shanklin. I'm a councilperson for District 2. I retired from GE after 32 years and started working for Judge Jackson. Got a little taste of politics, and then when the new Metro started, I ran for office and won that seat. And I've been there ever since brand new 2003. And my job is a little bit of everything in the community. So I'm just out there. Sometimes we're citing people. Sometimes we're out there taking down trees or buying refrigerators and whatever. But that's my job. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Rose Smith, and I am the Executive Director and the founder of the ACE Project. ACE is Acting Compassionately Every Day, and ACE was started after my 24-year-old son, Corey Michael Ace Crow, was murdered. And he was murdered at 25th and Standard, and me being a big mama bear, I stood there the 25th of every month for one whole year. Then after that, I decided to purchase the property where he was murdered and turn it into a community center. And so now we have 3 locations. And as I said, it's acting compassionately every day, and that's what ACE is about. ACE is about giving opportunities to those who's been impacted by gun violence and trauma through resources, compassions, and opportunities. We work with the survivors as well as youth, giving them opportunities. He was ACE, and that was his self-proclaimed nickname, and so I gave myself a nickname as well. So I call myself Queen of Peace, and my peace is people everywhere acting compassionately every day.
Good afternoon, and my name is Jarena Weathers, and I'm your Commonwealth Attorney here in Jefferson County. There are 57 Commonwealth Attorneys that serve 4 million of us in the Commonwealth of Kentucky. Our Jefferson County is actually the largest of 780,000 that we are here to protect. That's what we took our oath for. I've been in public service for 25 years, started here in the courtrooms under Mike O'Connell as a prosecutor, the background mostly of sexual assault, elder abuse cases, child abuse cases. And then I went to Frankfurt for a little bit and helped create the elder abuse office that is there now at the Attorney General's office. And somehow I'm blessed enough to be back here where I belong here in Jefferson County. I will share with you that collaboration is one of those words that we overuse quite a bit, but being intentional and working together is what we're here for. There's a lot of times that I go into different areas and different agencies, and they're like, why are you here? We are here because we're supposed to be here. We're considered prosecutors, but we're also part of this community. So we are here to make sure to keep the community safe, and we also are here to make sure things are done equitably. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Jarena. I'm Mike O'Connell, Jefferson County Attorney. Born and raised here. I'm a veteran as well. I have 2 sons that are veterans. I was an armor officer. One of them was with the 82nd Airborne in Afghanistan. The other one was in South Korea. I tell everybody, between me and my sons, we've shot everything that wasn't dropped out of an airplane or fired from a vessel at one time or another. And I say that in part because a lot of people in this room know how strongly I feel about guns and the slaughter of people that are taking place in this community, large urban areas around this country with guns. And I'm going to tell you this story, that when I was a juvenile court judge in the mid-'80s, I volunteered for the West End docket. I sat there for 2 years. It was Portland, West Louisville, parts of Shively, that docket. 2 years I sat there. Did not have one gun case in 2 years. Okay? Now police officers are telling me, and we serve on other committees too, police officers are telling me it's easier to get a gun than a bag of weed. And that's what's causing the primary thing that's causing the bloodshed that we see on the streets of this city. And I applaud the mayor and this one over here. Misty said she's got a big chore ahead of her, but I applaud the mayor and others for going forward and continuing to work on safety as well as due process issues. And I was one of the originators of the Board of Directors of Restorative Justice, so I feel I have a great interest in that as well. But anything we can do to stop the bloodshed and the slaughter that is going on in this community, I am 100% for it.
Am I the last guy? Okay. Good afternoon. I'm Randy White. I'm the Commissioner of the Department of Juvenile Justice here in Kentucky. I had worked with the Adult Department of Corrections for about 28 years and retired in 2024, and shortly thereafter my phone rang and I came back out of retirement as the Commissioner for Juvenile Justice. I felt it very important, and Governor Beshear felt it very important that we be part of this commission, that we commit to this commission and we collaborate. As you well know, we'll be responsible for operating the detention facilities for juveniles in this county for adult males or juvenile males. With me today, and I'm going to pick on Cassandra, she's back in the back row, but she is our Director of Community Services, and we also are responsible for providing community supervision and services to the juveniles in Jefferson County that is justice involved, and we act as a liaison with the courts to properly manage and to guide the juveniles and the young people that's justice involved. So it's good to be here. If I'm not at this meeting, the future meetings, then Cassandra probably will be. She's also a resident of Jefferson County, so thank you for the invitation. Good to be here.
All right, thank you, everybody. We do have more people sitting here, but I'm going to make you guys wait to hear about them. And we are going to move forward with the rest of our orientation. I want to acknowledge that Mr. Freddie Brown, Senator Keturah Herron, and Ms. Jessica Brown arrived after roll call was taken, and they are present here now. All right, thank you all for your service. A couple of other things to cover before we get into some more meat. Turning back to your binder, after the commission member bios, you will see a section on Robert's Rules of Order. This is a cheat sheet for you. Many of you have served on boards and commissions that use these rules before, but they may be new to some of you. I'll give you a quick overview of what that looks like. We'll use these as a guide for our meetings going forward. Shannon and I, who are your co-facilitators, will serve in the co-chair role as it's articulated in the Robert's Rules of Order. So we will be responsible for moving us along, keeping us on task, and recognizing folks to speak. Mayor's office staff will prepare meeting minutes for us that then you commission members will be responsible for approving at the following meeting. The format of our meetings will generally go in the following way. There will be a call to order. The commission will be asked to approve prior meeting minutes. Then we will move forward with what the commission has said it wants to do at the next meeting, any report outs and discussion as directed by the commission. Then we will determine the next meeting's agenda, and then we will go through any other business or announcements that need to take place. Motions are how we will introduce new topics or actions. We'll try to do this as much as possible. I know it'll be unfamiliar at first. Just go with it. We'll get it going. Discussion usually follows a motion, and then a vote where appropriate will take place. Simple majority will take votes. Again, only one person speaks at a time, and remarks will go through the co-chairs to maintain order. And finally, open meetings requirements. If you look in your binder, the next section is a bit of a summary of open meetings. Because this commission is a public body, it is subject to open meetings and open records laws, and they ensure transparency. So the public has access to these meetings. As you can see, we have some members of our public here today. Agendas will need to be posted in advance for each of our meetings. The public can have other access by virtue of this meeting being recorded. The public is permitted to request certain records of this commission and associated with this commission, and of course, as I mentioned, meeting minutes will be prepared. All decision-making and votes will happen here in the public eye in the commission. There will be no private decision-making. These laws, of course, they're not just requirements, they're there to reinforce legitimacy and trust of this body, so we will follow them. Before this meeting, a copy of the Kentucky Attorney General's recent guide on this subject, open meetings and records, was emailed to all commission members, along with an acknowledgement form for you to sign. It is also reproduced in its entirety in your binder right after that little cheat sheet. And if I can direct your attention to the front left pocket of your binder, the certificate, the acknowledgement form, has been excised for you. If you could take just a moment, please, to fill in your name on the form, phone, email address, and signature, and keep them handy. We'll come around and collect them when we have our break. I'll give you just a minute to do that. All right, I'm seeing most eyes looking back up. Don't worry about confirming your availability for meetings. We'll do that in just a little bit. I see people starting to check your schedules. Thank you, you got ahead of me. The rest of the binder is the copy of the executive order as amended that established this commission, the Safe Louisville Plan in its entirety, the community commitment Louisville's consent decree in its entirety, and then also a printout of all of the slides that we are using here today. You should also have a pen. I think all of you have found your pen that is close to you. If you need to take notes, feel free to do so on those slides. If you need anything else, just let us know. And in a few minutes, we'll circle back to future meeting logistics and topics. Are there any questions? I want to pause. Are there any questions on what we've covered so far? I know we've kind of been doing housekeeping. All right, I don't see any hands. So with that being said, we're going to talk about Safe Louisville, which is my favorite thing to talk about. I'm going to spend the next 15 minutes or so talking about it. Before I do, who has read Safe Louisville? All right, most hands are up. And who has heard me speak about it before? Apologies in advance to all of you. I will be brief and hit the highlights, but I want to make sure that our new folks who know a little less about it get a good idea of what it's about. And then we will talk about what specific areas you want to hear more about as we go forward. All right, Safe Louisville is a 5-year commitment to a set of crime reduction and prevention strategies. It goes from 2025 through 2030. The mayor developed this plan and released it in April of this year, and he did so after collecting a lot of data. So data in terms of crime statistics, data in terms of consulting with government agencies and community organizations doing the work, and also one-on-one communications with stakeholders to come up with this set of strategies. The goal is to reduce homicides and shootings by 15% every year. And we are well on our way to do that. Right now, shootings and homicides are down this year compared to last year, about 25%. These stats that I'm speaking about now focus on gun violence. That's not to the exclusion of anything else. That's an acknowledgement that first and foremost, we want to keep people alive. We want to keep people from dying. The strategies set forth in the plan, though, are general crime reduction strategies and prevention strategies that are meant to work across the board, not just as it relates to gun crime. Now, 25% is a very significant reduction so far, and to get an idea of that, take a look at the screen. This shows you the progression of gun violence in our city from 2010 through 2024. So if you take a look at the far left, in 2010, we saw 54 homicide victims. The yellow line is homicides. And 163 non-fatal shooting victims. That blue line is non-fatal shootings. As you look across time, there's a bit of a spike in 2016 and then a massive spike in 2020 and 2021. And that's the COVID-era spike that we saw across the nation. Louisville was not immune to it. It happened everywhere with crime, specifically with violent crime, and even more specifically with gun crime. After that, the crime started to taper off, but not at the rate that we want it to. And to give you an idea of why 25% is great so far this year, if you look at 2023 to 2024, homicides decreased by just about 3.5%, and non-fatal shootings decreased by about 11.7%. So 25% is way better than the decrease from last year. I don't say that to be celebratory. We're still not where we need to be. We have way, way, way more work to do. I say that to be hopeful, that we have a set of strategies that we are deploying and we can fine-tune and make better to make a real difference in the direction that crime in our city is going in. All right, let's briefly talk about the demographics of gun violence in our city. So these statistics that I'm about to tell you are from 2024 LMPD's data. About 15% of the victims and 17% of perpetrators were under 18. This year, it's a little bit similar. It's elevated, though. We have about 19% of our victims are juveniles this year as compared to 15% last year. 81% of victims and 87% of perpetrators are males, mostly between the ages of 18 and 34. It's almost exactly the same this year so far. 74% of victims and 73% of perpetrators were black last year. Here we're at about 77% of victims, so that's increased a bit, proportionally, I should say. 18% of victims and 26% of perpetrators are white, or were white last year. About a third of the shootings were gang or group violence related. Gang is a specific term that is defined by law. So I use group to encapsulate all kinds of group violence, not just certified gangs under the law. And about 50% of the shootings last year were in the West End. So between last year and this year, the shootings are going down, the gun violence is going down, but the proportion of juveniles involved is going up slightly. And that's something that I want this commission to keep in mind as we move forward. Now, I just spoke about the majority of the shootings, or about 50%, being in the West End. The West End shares some other characteristics that correlate with that increased burden of crime. One of those is poverty. So on the screen, you'll see a graphic that shows the percent of the population living in poverty. The darker the purple, the more poverty in that area, and this is arranged by census tract. The dots represent homicides and non-fatal shootings. So even just by eye, you can see that the violent crime disproportionately affects neighborhoods that are also burdened by poverty. The same trends hold true with respect to unemployment issues, with respect to education, and also with respect to certain public infrastructure, like vacant homes. So, Safe Louisville is about two things. One, making us safe, and two, making us feel safe. And those two things don't necessarily track one another. It is extremely important that we make our crime go down, but it's also important that people feel that. Because a lot of times we can talk about statistics and people can think about what they saw in their neighborhood and say, well, I'm not seeing that. So one of my goals for this commission is to hear from you, how can we do better about making people feel safe as we're making progress in reducing crime? What can we do to better get the message out and to better affect people's lives so that they feel good when they walk out the door in their neighborhood? Safe Louisville has 3 pillars: prevention, intervention, and enforcement. I know you guys have read the plan, so I'm not going to belabor everything that's in the plan. I'm going to give you a very quick overview of the strategies within each of those pillars. So the plan lists out some strategies for prevention, some strategies for intervention, and some strategies for enforcement. Let's start with prevention. Prevention is about combating the root causes of violence and creating conditions for peace. So what does that look like? Public infrastructure, investing in public amenities in areas that need it most, blight eradication, fixing those streetlights, fixing the sidewalks, dealing with trash cleanup and graffiti removal in the areas that need it most, and shutting down businesses that facilitate crime. Youth education and activities, ensuring that our young kids, early childhood education is available to all of them and that it's good. Making sure that our kids have opportunities after school and on weekends to keep them busy and keep them in something that engages them and makes them want to learn more and want to engage in pro-social activities during the school year and also over the summer. Economic stability, and this has two prongs. One is housing, both affordable housing and reimagining what public housing looks like, which Louisville Metro Housing Authority has done a fantastic job doing thus far. And also employment, so attracting employers to actually physically locate in areas with underemployment and offer jobs that people there are qualified for so they can access employment when they want it. Community resource connections. This is about making sure that we know what everybody's doing, developing an ecosystem and learning about the ecosystem of all of the organizations that are contributing to crime prevention and reduction every single day, and finding ways to enhance their work. And that's not just through dollars. Before this fiscal year, Mayor Greenberg's administration had invested about $34 million in crime prevention and reduction strategies that were community-led, either through organizations or individuals. There's more this year, but I mean beyond that, what can we do to help our nonprofits, train them to be able to be self-sustaining and to be more effective in their work? Community trust in police. There's your police reform prong. That's what our community commitment is about, and it's essential that we find ways to build that trust in an authentic way so residents feel comfortable with their police. And finally, common sense gun legislation. Many of you know this, some may not. In Kentucky, we have state preemption. So we have a challenge in passing laws that have to do with gun regulation. That means we're doing advocacy at the state level to try to get laws changed. We can get creative on the local level in a microcosm, but the big change is going to happen at the state level. We will advocate for things like banning assault weapons, for things like red flag laws, et cetera. One that has actually gotten traction is banning Glock switches. So earlier this year, there was a hearing on banning Glock switches, and that's the device that converts a semi-automatic weapon into a fully automatic one. Many states have those bans. Kentucky doesn't, and there's some traction this year, so we have some optimism about that going forward. All right, here's what prevention looks like. The new Walnut Street Park in Russell, which is fabulous. The new Parkland Library, reopened after 40 years of closure. Sustained focus improvement. I want to pause here for just a second. This strategy of sustained focus improvement was first introduced by LMPD and LMPD's crime plan. At the end of last year, they released the plan. It became effective at the beginning of this year, and it's incorporated within the mayor's plan. So all of their strategies, the mayor is supporting and incorporating into his larger plan. LMPD has 3 main strategies, and one of them is sustained focus improvement. Reason this is cool is that this brings all government agencies together to focus on 5 areas in our city that need the most attention based on their disproportionate share of our crime. So not only are more police resources being sent to those areas, both in a proactive way and a reactive way, but we also have our codes and regulations prioritizing them. Public Works is prioritizing them. Our Office of Violence Prevention looks at them differently. All of those different government agencies are fixing the streetlights, getting vacant houses boarded up, getting sidewalks repaired at a higher rate for these particular areas that have been singled out. Prevention looks like Get Busy initiative. This is some of the mayor's youth activities that just kicked off last week. Over $115,000 in 3 areas in our city went to community organizations to do youth programming after school and on weekends. And one more picture of what prevention looks like is Community Care Campus. The mayor just did an announcement on this today. This is what reimagining public housing and affordable housing can look like. And this is part of what the mayor is looking at when he's looking at making affordable housing for all and also permanent supportive housing for those who are unhoused. Okay, here's prevention. We're going to hop through intervention and enforcement, and then I want to hear from you. All right, intervention. That's about stopping potential shooters before they act and stopping the cycle of incarceration. 3 main strategies here. Strategy 1, violence intervention initiatives. I'll come back to that in just a moment. Conflict resolution alternatives. How do we resolve conflict outside of the justice system, particularly when it involves mental health? How do we divert that so that it's not a law enforcement issue, it's a mental health issue? And trauma and reentry services. And I want to note one thing here. A lot of cities put their reentry efforts as a separate category after enforcement. It's a separate category that's reentry. Reentry, for those of you who don't know, refers to when someone has served their time for committing a crime and is reentering society, setting that person up for success to be a positive, contributing member of society. This is under intervention because this is a key to stop the cycle of incarceration, which is part of what intervention is. And it's lumped together with trauma because even though incarceration is necessary, in some cases, it is a trauma. It's a trauma for the person who is incarcerated and their family, and we have to use a trauma-informed lens when we deal with reentry. All right, here's what intervention looks like in a nutshell. One primary example is Pivot to Peace. This is our community violence intervention effort. And I'm looking over here at Jess Brown because she's involved in the hospital part of this. In 4 areas of our city, we have folks who will go out, who are credible messengers, and try to de-escalate conflict and mediate conflict and offer services to people, whether it's getting an ID or whether it's full case management, to try to pull people out of circumstances that could lead them down the wrong path. Thus far, this has had a significant impact. In these areas where the strategy has been deployed, we're seeing a 62% reduction in shootings and homicides. So we've got a 5th area that's coming up in California that's being set up right now. And these efforts also extend to partnerships with U of L Trauma Center and other areas within the city. Another way we see intervention is through group violence intervention. This strategy, unlike community violence intervention, this strategy involves law enforcement. So this is where we have law enforcement identify folks who are at risk, being a victim or a perpetrator. They go out to that person along with other folks who are going to offer resources. Law enforcement says, hey, you pick up a gun again, there will be consequences. We know what you're doing. Then the folks who can offer services are there to offer anything that that person may be willing to accept, and wraparound services for their family too. A key part of this is the people that are being targeted are group involved. That's why it's called group violence intervention. So law enforcement and their partners will go out and warn as many people, give fair notice to as many people within that group as they can. If someone then chooses to pick up a gun, consequences are swift and certain for that entire group from a law enforcement perspective. All right. This year we're adding juvenile violence intervention so that we can focus on our kids as well. Another example of intervention is community sanctuary projects. So after there's a shooting, we recognize that that affects the entire community. There's secondary trauma that happens to everyone who lives there. So shortly thereafter, a team led by our faith-based liaisons and other community partners and our Office of Violence Prevention goes out and brings food to that community and brings community health advocates that offer mental health services and grief counseling and gives services to as many people as will accept it. And final example of intervention, restorative justice, which is something that, that Mike O'Connell mentioned a couple minutes ago. This is Volunteers of America's program that helps people resolve conflict outside of the justice system. So a victim, if they so choose, and a perpetrator can come together and come to their own resolution for the harm that was done outside of the justice system. And that avoids inserting someone, perhaps for the first time, into a system where if they're inserted once, we know it's more likely they will see it again. All right, finally, we'll talk about enforcement. This is about protecting the public and holding offenders accountable. This starts with law enforcement support, paying our officers well, equipping them with the technology that we need. We just got drones for first responders, and they have been instrumental in some arrests already, and have been instrumental in some life-threatening situations. We are taking care of our officers by using the Summit Wellness Center, which is newly opened. It's a center that all first responders can go to for physical health and mental health support. And that has resulted in a 56% fewer days off work just by having this center. All right. Public order, this is about maintaining access to our public spaces for everyone, keeping them safe for everyone. A huge initiative here is the Park Ranger program. We are adding park rangers to help enforce public order in our parks. State and federal partnerships. We are down about 300 officers from where we were before. We are leveraging all of the partnerships that we can with the state and federal law enforcement to be able to help us hold offenders accountable, those who are driving violence in our city. And finally, we're looking at justice system transparency. So helping the public understand what's happening in our justice system and why. And as the Commissioner mentioned a few moments ago, we're trying to ensure that we get a juvenile detention facility here in Louisville, because no kid should be shipped hours away to Adair or Boyd County while their litigation is pending. Here's very quickly what enforcement looks like. This is part of the Summit Wellness Center here. And again, that's not only physical health, that's mental health, that's family support, that's financial counseling, and more. And this picture has some people who are in the room in it. This is a picture of the Violent Crime Reduction Team when it was formed. The Attorney General has given us some prosecutors here in Louisville and also a detective to help us with capacity for prosecuting violent criminals, particularly for gun crimes. And we're using that to the best of our ability here now. Prohibited Firearms Possessor Initiative is the last thing that I'll mention. That is where law enforcement is coming together to make sure that we are prioritizing the right cases. We're not prosecuting to prosecute, we're not investigating to investigate, we're getting the people who are driving violence off the street. All right. That is, in a nutshell, what Safe Louisville is. Thank you for your attention. I know that was a lot of speaking. I now want to turn it over to you, and I would like to use our mobile mic. Is it working? Here's what I'd like to do. I'd like to take the next few minutes to hear your ideas. If you have specific questions, I'm happy to answer them, but I'm more interested in hearing what you want to focus on for this next meeting. There's a lot in Safe Louisville. We need to dig into parts of it that you think are important. So I want to turn it over to you to throw out topics that you'd like to see on the next meeting's agenda. Keep in mind, because we'll have to budget time for the independent monitor to speak, we probably can cover about 2 topics. But if we can throw out all the ideas that you guys have, we can also keep a list of topics and keep them for future meetings as well. So with that, is there anyone who has any questions or any ideas for what you want to hear more about going forward? Anybody? Somebody's got an idea. Come on. Yeah? Senator? Okay. All right. Mr. Lopez?
Yeah, glad to kick us off, and then, you know, the conversation can go from there. One, as I mentioned, one of my main objectives of being part of this is to really bring some voice from the Latin Hispanic community and our unique cultural language needs, et cetera. And so I think at some point also seeing Latin Hispanic demographic represented in the statistics would be hugely important. You know, as we talk about how poverty demographics are, you know, really correlated with these violence demographics, I'm going to assume that we're also disproportionately impacted by violence in the Latin Hispanic community. And so having some level of visibility into what those statistics are alongside the others in our community, I think is super important. And then 2, alongside that, domestic violence. I think when I think of some of the most pressing and urgent violence concerns within the Latin Hispanic community, I think domestic violence is right at the very top of that. And so I totally hear you all on saying there is a reason why we're focusing on gun violence so much. I would really push for us to also really consider the huge impact that domestic violence is having and the disproportionate attention that it gets because it's more out of sight, out of mind.
Thank you. Senator Herron, did you have something? Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm so sorry. I was going to let you go.
Mr.
But,
Nguna?
obviously, from the ACLU's perspective, and just me personally, I think I'd like to see us focus a lot on prevention. I'm a front-end person. I like to make sure people aren't getting into the justice system to begin with, specifically around mental health and substance use disorder. As a person in recovery, I know that recovery works, not incarceration. Things of like, one of the things we lack in this city is a crisis stabilization center, and what is the city doing to like open that up for our people who have mental health issues. So I'd like to have a lot of conversation about how we can make that a reality.
Thank you. Senator?
Thank you. I would like to see more information and talk more about the policies. I know that you mentioned the Glock switches. Would like to know how many Glock switches that we have seen in incidents here in Kentucky, or I'm sorry, in Louisville. You know, I'm concerned specifically with that is that currently that is a federal law and ban. And so as a lawmaker, I'm hesitant about federally, if that's already something that can happen, us diverting our energy and time into prosecution when federally that can happen, and would like to look at more policies related to guns around safe storage, education, and some of those other things that I believe that would have a better impact, especially as you're looking at prevention and intervention. As my partner at the ACLU said, we have to look at the prevention and intervention. Obviously, enforcement is huge, but we cannot enforce our way out of the things that we're seeing.
And Senator, may I follow up with you? When you are saying you want to hear more about policies, is there a particular entity that you would want to hear from?
Just what the mayor's office is planning on doing. I will do a point of privilege. I have sponsored several pieces of policies related to stopping access to guns in our youth hands, and then just in general, whether it's safe storage or more things around the dealers, straw purchases and things such as that. But would just like to see the mayor's office look deeper into what policies.
Thank you. Mr. Brown?
Yes, thank you for this opportunity. One of the things that I think we would like to see, or I would say I would like to see, is the policing efforts. Really kind of dig into that and see what that looks like from the inside out, and then be granular about what the interoperability looks like, meaning how do we work, how does LMPD work together with the other law enforcement agencies that are collected around our city, and what does that look like? You had mentioned that there was a 300-person reduction. Does that have an impact on what we're seeing in the numbers? Because we can throw a lot of numbers up there, but we don't know what the meaning or the message is behind those numbers. And so I think that would be a gateway for us to start as a military guy. In order for me to go into a battle, I need to know what my support looks like, what my troops look like. And I think that's going to be important for us, especially if we're trying to reduce violent crimes. What does our policing efforts look like, and what is it that we can do as citizens to assist them in that effort?
Thank you. Ms. Verona?
Yes. I would like to focus on the prevention area with the youth, and I want to hear from JCPS what they are doing with our kids, or how they are planning to keep our kids safe, because a lot of the conflicts they initiate in JCPS schools, they got out to the neighborhoods.
Thank you. Ms. Jenkins?
Thank you. One area that I've always been really interested in is the amount of trauma our young people experience, whether it's from experiencing domestic violence or seeing violence on the street. And I'd be really interested in what programs are doing interventions, especially with our very young children.
Mr. Huber?
Yeah. We have acknowledged the, I guess, the little uptick in adolescent violence and youth violence, and we spend a lot of resources on and time and effort on after-school programs and things to get our youth involved with and try to intervene and stop things from progressing. I would kind of like maybe to see some resources for maybe the parents. Maybe they have problems, like they're a single parent. It could be a man or a woman, or they're having a hard time parenting their child. Maybe I to see some more resources geared toward that, where they can go get the help they need to help parent their child, you know, because a lot of that starts at home, and we know a lot of the things start with parents. So that's all I got. So.
Thank you. Any other ideas that folks want to throw out at this time? Mr. Will?
Well, in a broad sense, and it could probably fit in all along, is the connection between inside and outside the Waterson. I sincerely believe we've got another divide in this community of inside and outside the Waterson. If you look at the overlay of maps over the years, the highest degree of suicide rate is in eastern Jefferson County, proportionate to maybe the murder rate in the western part of Louisville. So it's not just an issue for inside the Waterson, and I think sometime whether the news media or others perceive that. I know the police departments of the suburban cities and LMPD meet on a regular basis together with the sheriff, but I guess my question would be pretty broad, that when we get into these statistics or these issues, looking at it as much countywide, you know, as certain areas, and how do you connect that more fully, that this is all of our problem, you know, not just one section of the community.
Okay, great. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm running a little bit late, and I apologize for that. But what I'd like to do is read back to you the list of what I heard you say. If I missed something, please raise your hand and let me know that I missed it. Once I know that I have the universe of what you guys said, I'll read the list one more time, and I'll ask each of you to vote for 2, maximum of 2 of them. And whichever one gets the most votes will be our subject for the next meeting. And whatever doesn't make the cut will stay on our list for future meetings, or if it's more of a discrete question, we can answer those kinds of questions as we go. Does that sound all right to everybody? Okay, all right, great. Here's what I heard. I heard domestic violence. I heard, most recently, I think suicide was brought up. Is it fair to say, Mr. Will, that that would be a topic that you'd be interested in exploring? All right, domestic violence. I heard suicide. I heard mental health and substance use disorders, crisis stabilization as it relates to prevention, so focusing on mental health. I heard legislative efforts, as Senator Herron spoke about. Then I heard things that kind of focused on young people, so what JCPS is doing with young people, how we're dealing with trauma in young people, that I think kind of goes together, is just focusing on what are we doing with young people and what is JCPS doing with young people. And then I heard parent interventions. Is there anything, and Mr. Lopez, I'm taking your demographic question as a standalone question that we can get answered for you, and we'll present it at the next meeting. I think that can be a good standalone. Does that work for you, sir? All right. So again, I have domestic violence, suicide, mental health, legislative, young people or youth, and parents. Is there anything that I missed? I'm sorry, sir? I said policing. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, of course. Policing, and I think that what I would suggest there is, in digging into the policing effort, we could do something that gives you an overview of how LMPD is organized, what it looks like, what bureaus there are, how they interact with one another, and then also answer your questions about how they interact with state and federal partners. Does that sound roughly like what you're thinking about, Mr. Brown?
Right. As it nests, it's nested into reduction of violent crimes.
Right.
That's where we wanted to make sure we point that towards.
Got it. All right. Okay, let me say it one more time. Domestic violence, suicide, mental health, legislative, youth, parents, and then policing and reducing violent crime and kind of LMPD in general, right? Those are the categories. I'm going to announce them one at a time. If you could please vote for 2 of them by a show of hands. And Deputy Mayor Kemper, if you can help me count these as we go through. All right, the first one, domestic violence. All right, I count 6 hands. Suicide. I count 3 hands. Mental health and substance use disorder, crisis stabilization. I count 12 hands. Legislative efforts. I count 4 hands. Youth. I count 10 hands. Parents. I count 5 hands. And policing, reducing violent crime, and explaining kind of how LMPD works. All right, I count 4 hands. So the topics for the next meeting with 12 votes in support would be mental health, going through mental health, substance use disorder, crisis stabilization efforts, and through the lens of prevention, and then also looking at youth. So both what is JCPS doing with our kids in terms of violence prevention, and also how are we intervening in trauma that young people are experiencing. All right. Yeah.
Very quickly, I just want to also note that for some of the topics that came up under the heading of mental health, we are going to be talking about behavioral health response as the commission goes on. And in addition to your question about policing, that is going to be an integral part of our discussion. So I just want to be assured that if it doesn't get touched on at our next meeting, it will be discussed.
All right, so let's make this official. Do I have a motion from a commission member to adopt these 2 topics for the next meeting agenda? Thank you, and do I have a second? All right, the motion, the topics have been properly moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. And all in opposition, please say nay. All right, the ayes have it. The Safe Louisville topics for the next meeting agenda have been approved. We are now finally going to our break. As some of you already noted, there's one more thing in your binder. It's a meeting availability spreadsheet. If you could please take a look at it, it's in the front part of your binder, and mark each of the times that you are available. We'll come around and collect those, we'll tally those, and by the end of this meeting, we'll be able to announce the next meeting dates for the remainder of our year, okay? Thanks, everybody. 10 minutes.
to order. Call to order. Thank you. I don't know who did that.
Hello, thank you so much, everyone. So before I get into a launch into my very prepared notes, because I am a nervous speaker and I need my notes to stay on track, I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, it is so affirming to be in this room with this cross-section of our city, in terms of race, in terms of socioeconomics, in terms of the work that we do. In 2020, when the civil rights protests were going on, I was out there with my children and my husband, and a lot of the people I walked with looked like this room. And it is wonderful to be full circle on this, and we have a long, long way to go, but I do think I just want to make sure we are sitting in the sense that we have also come a long way. And with that, I'm going to begin my portion of the presentation. So thank you for being here today. I am Shan Kemper. I am Deputy Mayor to Mayor Greenberg, and I am also the co-facilitator of the Community Safety Commission. In my role as co-facilitator, I help to guide our community commitment and the Community Commission. Both of those are about building trust and providing results together. The important promise to the community is made with the Community Safety Commission, and that is that those most impacted by our public safety systems help to shape what those public safety systems look like. Our objectives are straightforward. We want to build constitutional policing into daily practice, strengthen accountability, improve our behavioral health response, and progress on public reporting. Today I'm going to discuss three things: how we got here, why the independent monitor matters, and how the independent monitor was selected and what they will be doing. Why this commitment and why now? As a result of community advocacy, the civil protests in 2020, and the unfortunate and untimely death of Breonna Taylor, in 2021, the Department of Justice opened a pattern and practice investigation into Louisville Metro and LMPD. In short, we got sued. While the investigation was ongoing, I want to make it very clear that LMPD began to make internal and external changes already. But while the investigation was ongoing, the mayor also took steps to acknowledge the harms perpetuated. And in 2024, we came to an understanding that we would have a consent decree with the Department of Justice. But in May 2025, the Department of Justice announced its intention to pull out from the consent decree and dismiss the lawsuit with prejudice, which means it could not be brought again. Louisville took this challenge as an opportunity. To ensure the promised progress, the city, including LMPD, moved forward with the community commitment, Louisville's consent decree. This is in my face, sorry. This agreement between Metro government, the LMPD, and our community, the Community Safety Commission, would include a robust mechanism for community input and provide for an independent monitor. What does that actually mean? Well, our community consent decree is broke into several disparate sections, and please forgive me while I read them, but I think it's really important that we understand all of the sections that are a part of our community consent decree. Implementation and resolution, agency management and supervision, community-based public safety, use of force, residential search warrant applications, residential search warrant executions, protests and demonstrations, fair and impartial enforcement, street enforcement, individuals with behavioral health disabilities, sexual misconduct, sexual assault, and domestic violence, misconduct investigations and discipline, officer and employee assistance and support, and recruitment and hiring. The commitment organizes reform into sections with clear objectives and deliverables. As you can see from this, annual implementation plans will specify the schedule for policy updates, training, and supervision, and we will also maintain a public issue and resolution log. A key component of our community commitment is independent monitoring. Independent monitoring turns promises into proof. Monitoring builds trust by pairing technical review with transparency. And this way, when we say something has changed, policy, training, et cetera, whatever it is, you can see that it has. An independent monitor equals a neutral evaluator who operating as an officer of the court in a classic consent decree. But here, we are self-directed, a third party to assess progress and engage the community. I think it's important to talk about how the monitor was selected. There was a rigorous selection process which narrowed it to 2 finalist teams, which was ultimately scored by a committee. But the final decision was made by the community, ultimately made by deciding vote and survey input. And on September 26, 2025, the city selected Equal Law Enforcement for All as our independent monitor. This process was transparent and competitive, and ALIFA was determined to be the best choice. They bring both technical depth and a strong commitment to community engagement. How monitoring and reporting will work. There will be semi-annual reports to the commission, continued and increased use of dashboards that show key metrics, and targeted audits. And I just want to say, as a point aside from here, our monitors will be speaking briefly today, but they also have offered to stay here as long as the public or our commission members want to talk afterwards. What our commissioners will see next quarter. We will publish what we measure, explain what it means, and respond to what we hear. This includes annual implementation plans, regular briefings, listening sessions, and making sure transparency and responsiveness are how we build legitimacy. There are 3 guardrails for continuous improvement built into the community consent decree: data and accountability, community voice, and course correction. And what does that mean? So data discipline is measure what matters, publish what we measure, and learn from it. Community voice is engage early and often so policy isn't done to the community, but with the community. And finally, course correction, which is what it states. We will course correct if what we're doing isn't working. Finally, meet the monitor. ALIFA is Equal Law Enforcement for All, and they will be our independent monitor. They are a nonprofit whose mission is to help reinvent law enforcement. They have experience serving as an independent evaluator in other jurisdictions, and they have experience in building collaborative implementation plans, performance capture, staffing operations analysis, and sustained community engagement. And now I want you to meet our monitors who will be speaking briefly about their work and what our future with them.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Michael Harrison. Good afternoon, and thank you. My name is Michael Harrison. I am the ELIFA, Effective Law Enforcement for All, team leader for the Louisville Independent Monitoring Team. I also co-lead the independent monitoring team in Minneapolis, Minnesota, doing this very same work. I have 33 years of law enforcement experience. I'm born and raised in New Orleans, Louisiana, where I spent 28 years with the New Orleans Police Department. The last 4.5, I was the chief of police, leading that police department into its comprehensive violence reduction strategy, much like you're doing right now, which achieved a 50-year low in murders, while at the same time navigating that police department through America's most exhaustive and comprehensive consent decree, which you are now doing at this time. 4.5 years later, was recruited to go to Baltimore, Maryland, by the way, which at that time was considered the murder capital of the world, bringing a comprehensive violence reduction strategy there to reduce their murders there, while leading that department through now what the DOJ called the most dysfunctional police department in America, and put it under a consent decree, and we did both of those at the same time. 2 years ago, I retired, began consulting, worked on as a consultant with the Department of Justice on the Memphis investigation, which put it in a consent decree, and now working with ELIFA in the Minneapolis project, now here in the Louisville project, to do this work. And so I have been on both sides of the table, a police chief in a department that was being monitored, so I know exactly what this police department is undertaking and going through right now, and being a monitor, monitoring a police department. And with that experience, we will be able to come to you to tell you that if your department says it is doing something, we will be able to come to you, the community, and report that they are doing it. And we will be able to come to you to tell you that they are not. We will be able to tell you if they have the willingness and the capacity either or both, and we will be able to give them technical assistance should they need our help because perhaps they don't know how to do something. But we have shared goals to ensure that they do the work, and we are monitoring to ensure that you get the information you need to hold them accountable. And so that is our commitment. Our key focus is, our ELIFA motto, key focus is engaging, educating, and empowering community members to work collaboratively with their police departments to build trust where it was never built and repair trust where it was once broken. With that, I'm going to turn it over to one of my colleagues. We'll all introduce ourselves, and I'll come back to close us out.
Good afternoon, everyone. Cherie Briscoe Stewart here. I'm happy to be with you all today. I served nearly 30 years with the Baltimore Police Department. I am a Baltimore native. I was the first African-American woman to rise through every rank up to the rank of Deputy Commissioner. I had the opportunity and the pleasure and the honor to work for then Commissioner Harrison. When he came into our agency, we were 2 years into the consent decree. It was an adversarial process, and we were not on track. Upon my retirement just over a year ago, when I left, we were on track and starting to see the results of those historic lows. Most notably in my career in 2015, when we had the riots in Baltimore, I took command of the Western District 3 weeks after those riots and held that district for 3 years. So the work that you all have already begun, we had to start from that perspective and lens in 2015 without a handbook, without help, and without true guidance. And ultimately was able to get promoted and oversaw the first woman and first African-American to oversee the Detective Bureau to be able to restructure and reshape our investigative process so that we had a moniker of not just a democratic process about how we did our investigations, but something that allowed the community to see that we weren't cherry-picking how we did investigations. That was something that Baltimore was kind of noted for in terms of its investigations, how it treated or mistreated community members. The same so for our sexual assaults. And ultimately, Deputy Commissioner over the Operations Bureau, I had the opportunity in 2020 to oversee and guide those mass demonstrations to which we had no major negative civil event. You saw around the nation, they were having different issues navigating protests, and we were able to do that without having any major incidents occur that took us any step back in our process in terms of consent decree or how we navigated with community. I retired last year and started to join this consulting work and had the honor to join this ELIFA Louisville team after doing some local projects and doing some projects across supporting leadership. And for that, I'll turn it over to Brian.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Brian Corr. First, I'm just very honored to be part of this team and to be able to work with all of you in this community on this deeply important work to create true community safety here in Louisville. I am a native Detroiter. I grew up in Detroit many years ago, went to college in Michigan, and 40 years ago, when I was starting my last year as a Russian major, if you had told me one day I would be sitting here doing this, I would never have believed you. But my journey's been an interesting one. I spent about 25 years working at nonprofit organizations, everything from the ACLU to community organizations to campaigns, electoral campaigns for ballot referenda in Massachusetts, and have also volunteered along the way with a number of nonprofits, including one, the Louis D. Brown Peace Institute, that was founded by a mother who lost her son to gun violence and has devoted this organization to bringing the survivors of gun violence together with the parents of those whose children have committed that, around bringing them back into community and doing healing. So I have a lot of different lenses through which I see this work. One of the things I spent my time doing after nonprofits is about 17 years working for the city of Cambridge, Massachusetts, where I had two roles. One was the police oversight role, looking at complaints, working with complainants, looking at compliance, but also I was the director of the Peace Commission. And in that role, it was everything from events and commemorations, like commemoration of the Holocaust, Martin Luther King Day, to helping the community respond in the wake of traumatic events that had an impact on the community. I got trained in psychological first aid, and that has really also given me a lens through which to see a lot of this work and how trauma shapes so much of what happens that's negative, but how looking at things through that lens can allow you to see ways for real healing and for communities to not only recover and thrive just as individuals do. So I could go on at great length, but I will just say that I've been able to have the privilege of doing work on police reform and accountability with communities across the United States, even working with people in Mexico through the U.S. State Department. And I hope to bring some measure of that to the really deeply important work you are all doing here in Louisville.
So with that, on behalf of all of the members from Effective Law Enforcement for All, we want to say thank you. Thank you for selecting us. We are both excited and grateful to be your independent monitor. We believe that I'm going to introduce the other 11 members who are not here, many of whom are streaming, watching, because we believe we've built the most dynamic, expansive policing reform team in all of America. And we are grateful that you chose us, and we hope to be a resource for the Louisville Police Department as they have made this agreement with the city, in the city, to do this work, to not just reform, but transform their department into the department you pay for, the department you expect, and the department you deserve. Really quickly, a few of our other members who are not here, Eric Melanson, who was my chief of staff in New Orleans and in Baltimore, and later became civilian deputy commissioner in Baltimore, is on this team's number of years as a civilian expert. We have Dr. Laura Wyckoff, senior advisor and researcher, formerly with the National Policing Institute, a police reforming expert who has worked across America. Marcia Thompson, a civil rights lawyer who has done police reform work all across this country her entire career. Lisa Fink, who's a policy analyst and has worked on several consent decrees in several cities, also joins this team to do policy analysis. Julie Solomon, who's a wellness and behavioral health response expert, who's on the Chicago team, the Minneapolis team, and is now joining us here to do officer wellness and behavioral health. William Murphy, who is the former deputy chief of the Los Angeles Police Department with 35 years, is an expert across the country in training, is on this team to deal with training. Ian Dombrowski, who's now a state's attorney in Maryland, but spent 25 years in the Baltimore Police Department, rose up to the rank of major, who is an expert in reform, is on the team. Murphy Paul, police chief, 6-year police chief from Baton Rouge, Louisiana, who before then spent 28 years in the Louisiana State Police, rising up to number 3 in that agency, has joined this team and has been consulting for the last couple of years. Zori Russig-Sobel, an analyst who does data analyst, crime analyst, is on this team working with Eric to do analysis of all the data you're going to be giving us. Samantha Reinerson, who's a policy training and compliance assessment data analyst, also is on it. Last but not least, Chief Jason Armstrong, a 2-time police chief who has consent decree experience, namely the chief that was in Ferguson, Missouri when it started its consent decree, has joined our team to help with assessing your policing operations. So once again, we are excited, we are grateful, we are humbled to be your independent monitor. We will be able to report to you twice a year in a semi-annual report, but we will be here on the ground several times a year having community meetings that we will schedule and coordinate and invite you in the community to report out on what the department has said it is doing to ascertain the veracity and report out to you that they are doing it, that they're not doing it, or they're doing it but it's going slow, they're doing it well, and all the things we're doing to help them should they need our help, so that we can be an honest broker that's independent. We give you that commitment. Once again, thank you for your time.
All right. I'm going to stand up and talk. Yes, that would be great. First, my name is Emily McKinley. I'm one of the deputy chiefs for LMPD, and this is really exciting for me to be here in front of all of you all. We have worked so hard for this day. I spent, well, first, I've been on the department for 19 years, so I've spent my whole adult life really growing up on this police department. I rode out in the 2nd Division as a beat officer. I spent about 10 years in homicide and then worked my way up through different ranks on the department. And I was involved a lot with the investigation with the DOJ, and then throughout the entire negotiation process for the consent decree, what ultimately now is the community commitment. And so I put a lot of work personally into the commitment and the efforts that we have done so far and the ones that we are committed to continuing, and we're excited to start that progress, and I'm really excited to work with the folks here on OLIFA. So I'm going to go through, there's a lot that we could talk about with LMPD as far as structure, and Mr. Brown, I know that we want to get into that in future meetings, but I want to talk to you all about what does this commitment mean and how is it going to work? How internally is LMPD going to do this? And so I know we got a short period of time, but first, you should look at this like a playbook. This is a playbook of what policies are going to be changed on LMPD, what are the requirements of policy, what are the training requirements that LMPD is going to have when it comes to those. I know Chan went over the different sections, so there's different policy requirements for each one of those sections: use of force, search warrants, First Amendment, behavioral health. So a lot of policy changes in each one of those, a lot of training requirements, so that it'll be gradual changes throughout the next 4 or 5 years or so. And then, so it's all policy, training, supervision. Once we change those policies, how are we going to train on those policies? How are we going to make sure that officers understand them? How are we communicating with officers what the changes are, why those changes are happening? What does the training look like? And then once they're trained, how are we assessing that training to see, is it working or is it not? And that's where we're going to lean on the monitoring team to assess, okay, we've done the policy change, we've done the training, is it working? And if it's not, then let's fix it. And we'll come to you all and report out and get feedback on how we can fix things in the future. We talked about annual implementation plans. So each year there will be a plan that is delivered to the community that outlines, not just to the community, but to our department. What policies can you all expect to be changed this year? How is that going to work? What quarter of the year might those policy changes come out? What training curriculum will be delivered during in-service or during annual trainings that officers have? How will those trainings be assessed? And so all of that will be outlined in the annual implementation plan. And then again, clear communication and training for officers in the community as we go forward throughout the process. You can go to the next slide. And a lot of times officers ask, so officers want to know what is happening, what can we expect? And again, it's going to be clear guidance and training. You are not going to be expected to do anything different as far as policy goes until you're communicated on this policy change, you're trained on that policy change, and it's implemented. So we don't want things to change quickly. We want to make sure this is a gradual process and everybody understands what is going to happen. Officers are going to have increased support and resources. They will have streamlined implementation throughout those implementation plans every year. They'll understand exactly what's coming up, and fair and achievable outcomes and exit paths. Go to the next slide. Again, implementation plan. So it's an annual plan that's going to outline that schedule of what we're going to implement each year according to the community commitment. We'll identify compliance assessments, so there will be particular assessments each year that the monitor and our team will conduct, and those are really audits of, are we doing the things? Are we executing what we said we were going to execute? We can go to the next slide. And so compliance, the word compliance, you'll see that a lot within the community commitment. So how is compliance assessed? What is compliance? What does it mean? And so you'll have a policy review. So do we have the policy that each paragraph is requiring? And then there will be a training review. Have we done the training that is outlined in each section? And then there will be a performance review, and these are really audits. So we have a team of auditors on our department. There's about 10 auditors with a few supervisors, and it's a questionnaire. They watch body cam video, they review forms, they review case files, and they'll audit, did officers perform in the way that they are required according to policy? And so each one of those are scored, and audits are graded, and audits will be delivered to the monitor, and we'll determine, are we in compliance with the requirements of the community commitment? Have we met substantial compliance? You can go to the next slide. So what is substantial compliance? It's not perfection. We know that nothing's going to be perfect, but when things are not perfect, are we as an agency able to identify those? Are we able to identify ourselves and self-correct when we are deficient in in policy and in training? Can we identify those? So we know that substantial compliance is going to mean meeting the key objectives the majority of the time. And at the end of each one of the sections in a community commitment, there are key objectives that we are expected to meet for each section. And so that will help guide what is compliance for use of force, what is compliance for search warrant, residential search warrant executions, what is compliance for residential search warrant applications. And if you read the key objectives, those are what the auditors are going to build their audit and their questions off of. Are we meeting those key objectives? Go next slide. And so what is the role of the Community Safety Commission in the community commitment? And if you look at paragraph 67, it's a kind of a lengthy paragraph, but that really explains what your role is here. And your role is, if we run into issues in a particular paragraph or section, and we're like, hey, I think we might be able to do this a little bit differently, and the way we want to do it or the way we want to articulate this policy may not exactly fit with the words in the commitment, but we need to figure out what that means or what that looks like, and we're struggling to figure that out. The LMPD and Metro government and the monitor team, we can't really come to either an agreement or we just can't figure it out amongst ourselves. We would come to you all for feedback and advice or solicit information from you all of how can we resolve this problem? How can we achieve this goal, achieve these key objectives in a different way? So there might be things in certain paragraphs that we might be able to do differently throughout the next several years. Things change, new technology evolves, new ways appear, or new pathways appear, and we might find a different way to do it. And so we might come to you all to help us navigate that and help us troubleshoot any roadblocks that we find along the way. And that is my discussion on how the community commitment is going to work. I know there's a lot, again, that I look forward to talking with you all in future meetings about the structure of LMPD. I think that's important for you all to understand. I think it's also important for you all in the future to understand a lot of the reforms that we've already made on our department. And that's going to be a bigger and longer conversation, but look forward to having those with you all. Again, I'm really excited to be here, really excited to see all of this happening today. So thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Chief. And thanks, everybody. We're approaching the end of our meeting, unfortunately, because there's so much more that we could go over today. But I want to get a few things done before we leave. Here on our agenda is speaking about agenda settings, subcommittees, and meeting logistics. Before we get into that, if any of you have not turned in your availability survey yet, if you could please fill that out and pass it down. I think we got one at the end, Jordan. Jordan will come around and pick those up. He's making a tally for us to make sure we get a time or a date that works for as many people as possible. All right. So agenda for the next meeting. The independent monitor will present their first report to you. We will also go through the 2 agenda items that you have selected, which is youth prevention. We'll hear from JCPS. We'll also address what we're doing for trauma in young people. Our second topic under Safe Louisville will be prevention through the lens of mental health, substance use, and crisis stabilization. So we will present out to you and leave time for discussion and ideas and debate over those topics. All right? If you know that you're going to have particular questions about those topics in advance, and you know you want certain things answered, we would suggest that if you could send an email to Genevieve first, and her contact information is in the mayor's letter at the beginning. We won't respond via email with an answer, but what we will do is make sure that that question is answered in the report out at the next meeting, because we want to make sure you're getting the information that you want. If you don't think to email it, that's fine, ask it at the time. But if you know you want something answered, please feel free to do that. And if you can do that within the next 30 days, so we can make sure we have enough time to get your question answered as part of the next presentation, that would be wonderful. Subcommittees. So Shannon, I suggest to this commission that you form subcommittees. You don't have to, but it could be something very useful, and it can be on topics that you've already identified that are important to you. Maybe there's a subcommittee that has to do with juvenile crime prevention and after-school programming. Maybe there's one on cultural change in neighborhoods or coordinating among different neighborhoods. I know Mr. Will was speaking about that earlier. Maybe there's one about LMPD stop searches and bias-free policing. There are many different opportunities for subcommittees. So we would ask that you think about what subcommittees you want to see on this commission, and we'll start the meeting off at the next meeting by having you all determine what subcommittees are going to be formed. We would expect that those subcommittees will meet in between the community commission meetings. So essentially, folks on subcommittees would have a meeting a month. It would be their large commission meeting, and then in between, they would go to their subcommittee meeting. Those are still open. They have the same Open Records and Open Meetings Act requirements, so they still need to be moderated, and they're subject to the same laws. But we really want to get your ideas for that. So please be thinking about that. If there are ideas that you want to propose, and you want to send an email, just like the question that we mentioned before, if you want to send an email to make sure that that subcommittee idea gets on the agenda for next time, please feel free to send it to Genevieve first. We will make sure it's on the agenda to discuss, and we'll open it up to you guys to decide what you want to focus on. Generally, we'd recommend not doing more than 6 or so subcommittees maximum, but you may decide on fewer. We leave that up to you. And now, with respect to location, we're going to lose access to our main library because it is part of the mayor's renovation plans to make our library even more beautiful than it is. So we propose to find another centrally located place for the meetings downtown. Is there any objection to the location for the next meeting being downtown? All right, I don't see any objection. We will hunt for it. We will hunt for a good location, and we will let you know as soon as possible when we've secured one. With respect to the next meeting dates and times, so the duration today was 2 hours. That's long. We suggest to you guys that the meeting be an hour and a half moving forward, just to allow everybody to stay engaged and keep fully engaged. I guess I'll put it that way. So. Let me turn it over. Let me ask our colleague Jordan, do we have an updated tally on the dates? We do. May I have that from you, please?
Yes. So for December, I will do it. Oh, that's right. Excuse me.
And we will send this information out to you after this meeting.
All right. Misty, would you mind? Oh, that's why we don't want to edit it here. I'll change it in a second. But for December, we are meeting on Friday, December 12th. And after I announce it, once it's over, I'll put it up on the screen. So you don't have to write down right now, but you can. For February, we will meet Tuesday, February 17th. For April, we will meet on Wednesday, April 15th. For June, we will meet on Tuesday, June 16th. And finally, on August, we will meet on Thursday, August 20th.
Thank you very much, Jordan. And the meeting times we propose to you would be 1 to 2:30. After lunch, everybody's been fueled and is ready to go, and it's not time for anyone's afternoon nap yet. So those are the dates. We will send those around, as Deputy Mayor Kemper said. Do I have a motion from a commission member to adopt the schedule as stated? Anyone? And is there a second? Thank you. The meeting schedule has been properly moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye. And all opposed, please say nay. All right, the ayes have it. The meeting schedule has been approved. All right. We are going to adjourn. As a reminder, we will be sticking around, both Shannon and I, and also our independent monitor team will be sticking around to answer any questions that you have. So please feel free to approach. Thank you again for being here and being part of this effort. We're thrilled to be doing it with you. This concludes our meeting, and we are adjourned. Thank you.